Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here. Happy Friday as we head into the weekend after what has been a very long week. Congratulations on making it through. This has been the worst week for Tesla actually since the COVID-related drops of 2020. Tesla down 6.3% today. The S&P 500 down 3%, NASDAQ down about 4%. So I think a lot of today macro-driven, but piling on top of the down days that we had earlier this week. As you can see, it's been rough. So down about 16% since last Friday's close. And as I said, the worst weeks since March 2020, where we had those 20, 25% drops. So rough week. Again, congratulations on making it through. Interestingly, not the highest volume week today, or this week, since so far this year. This is about the 11th week, so not even a top 10 volume finish, even though it did seem like we had quite a lot of, certainly a lot of news and a lot of trading activity. Still not all that high in terms of the volume, even with that huge drop. So when we think about it and we look at Tesla's performance for, the week, what did we really have? Well, we had the delivery report, and then we've had all of this ongoing back and forth with Twitter. Would Elon sell? Would he not sell? And so far, now that we're through the week, we have confirmation now that Elon didn't sell on Monday. He didn't sell on Tuesday. I believe those were the two highest volume days this week. So if he would have sold, those would have been the most likely. So I think we're through that, but still there is the uncertainty that maybe Elon is going to end up selling at some point based on that Twitter deal. So that remains, a bit of an overhang on the stock on top of the delivery report, which when you think about it, we had a 5% miss. Does that really justify the stock price action that we have seen this week when Tesla was already, trading quite a bit lower than a couple weeks back, even where we were above 300? To me, not really, but that's why on Sunday and on Monday I talked about how this is, very fear-based, demand concern driven. Certainly not that's not trying to say that that's the entirety of it, but I do think that's a contributing factor, especially just in this macroeconomic environment. It's fear-based and people are taking risk off, and we're seeing Tesla be the recipient of that on the heels of this report. So I think that's a factor. And then obviously, what's been going on with Twitter, which hopefully we have a resolution to within the next couple of weeks. Twitter today, slightly down, not a huge drop, 0.5%. So again, a little bit less likelihood at the deal closing at that price, but not a huge drop today. And we haven't really had much more news on that situation. And then from a macro perspective, of course, we had comments from President Biden last night talking about how this is the highest risk that we have been in for an Armageddon type of situation since the Cuban Missile Crisis. So, anytime you have comments like that coming out, it's probably not going to be the best environment for stocks, especially higher growth stocks that haven't grown into the multiple that they are priced at yet. Next week is going to be another big week as we head into then earnings the following week. But next week, of course, we have the producer price index, we've got the core consumer price index, and then we've got the FOMC meeting minutes on Wednesday as well. So lots going on with Tesla. Again, tough week, but we do have earnings to look forward to. They're obviously going to be record earnings. I think Tesla's price to earnings right now is already dropped to, 80 or something like that. I don't see it here, but yeah, 80 right now. I'll have my earnings estimates out, before we go into earnings, but easily, I think Tesla should easily clear $1 in GAAP earnings and should move them up to that 3 and 30-cent range for trailing 12 months and drop this down, even more significantly. And if you annualize that, Tesla on Q3 earnings annualized is probably going to come in, and be at 50 times earnings or something like that, maybe even less on a GAAP perspective. So, I'm mentioning this as we're talking about this topic because as we sit through a week like this, while there are demand concerns, it's important to recognize that the fundamentals are still improving. Tesla is, still driving the business every single day. And, Q4 should be another record quarter that just continues to build on that progress that Tesla is making. So that's what's, most important to focus on. The market can stay in a situation where things are mispriced for a long time. Tesla's history is one of the better guides for us to recognize that. So keep that in mind. And for me, it's all about focusing on the fundamentals. All right, next up here, we've got an update from IDRA. it's kind of a weird update. I'm not sure why this is coming out today, but they said, or they posted a channel, they posted a video on their channel, which they actually posted yesterday and then deleted. But this is just demonstrating the 9,000 ton gigapress, which, poorly held secret. This is going to be for the Cybertruck. They've posted a video saying that they are done building it. So build completed, testing completed, and presumably, shipped over to Tesla. But we've already talked about this. We talked about this a couple months back after they wrapped up their show or their open house event back in mid-June. After that point in time, I believe that they had confirmed that they had sent this off to the customer, which of course would be Tesla. So what we're seeing here, Alex Torville on Twitter noting that apparently the gigapress has arrived in Houston, Texas 8 days ago and should be arriving shortly at Giga Texas. So Joe Tagmeyer, the other drone flyover people, going to be keeping an eye out for that. But this definitely matches more of like the timeline that we would have been expecting from previous updates that we'd had from IDRA. I walked through those shipping timelines and how that's, takes about a couple of months. And now we're right into that range where we had originally talked about, okay, maybe, late September into early November kind of a window. And that's right where we're at. I haven't been able to verify this personally, but we do have a reply here from Elon to a Teslarati tweet and article where it does mention that it's already entered the port of Houston. Tesla should be receiving it any day now. Elon replying to this saying, can't wait to see this beast in action. So not necessarily confirmation, but seems to be confirmation that, the 2/3 of the information in this tweet, hopefully Elon saw that and is, recognizing that as a part of it rather than just that IDRA has finished building it and testing it. But hopefully that's a little bit of confirmation that this is close for Tesla. So that's very exciting. That should allow Tesla to move into the next phase for Cybertruck. It's not like they can just get this machine and immediately start producing Cybertrucks, but hopefully it lets them get into their final prototyping stage and remain on track for production towards the middle of next year. So we'll see on that. And then also just a small thing on the Cybertruck here. We had previously talked about Elon's tweet where he had mentioned that it needs to be able to clear the channel from Starbase to South Padre Island. We looked at a Google Map shot of that. This is a nice aerial photo from RGV Aerial Photography on Twitter that shows what this looks like in a not map-based format, so it's a little bit more understandable, the distance that Elon is talking about the Cybertruck having to cross. And Elon did note here that in terms of the rate of travel for the Cybertruck, if it were submerged, or not submerged, but in the water, then you'd need an electric propeller mounted on the tow hitch to go faster than a few knots. So basically saying without that, that's the rate of speed that he would expect. There might be a creative wheel hub design that can generate meaningful thrust though. So I don't know if people would be necessarily like swapping out their, wheels to potentially, or the hubcap to, generate some propeller motion. Probably don't. Not a high enough use case to justify that, but interesting to see Elon kind of thinking about some of these things, like maybe Tesla, sells this part, or certainly aftermarket, people could design something like that, and that might even be what he's talking about here too with the wheel hubs as well. So again, small thing, but kind of curious to pass along. And then we do have a new interview here from the Financial Times with Elon Musk. It's a lot of stuff that we've talked about, nothing necessarily groundbreaking in terms of newness. A couple things probably worth pointing out is that Elon here talking about, his behavior on Twitter, things that we've heard Elon talk about before, but, he says he plays the fool on Twitter, often shoots himself in the foot, causes himself to get in all sorts of trouble, but he does find it vaguely therapeutic to express himself, and it's a good way to get messages out to the public. So, people kind of wonder if Elon is aware of that result of shooting himself in the foot sometimes, and Elon on other occasions has mentioned this, and clearly still acknowledging that here. And then probably the most important thing, let's see if I can find it here. I think I screwed up my cue a little bit, but Elon was talking about, just do a quick find. So Elon was asked about China, and the writer here says that there's some topics that amuse Elon. The longest silence that followed any of his questions were about China and the risk to Tesla Shanghai factory. So Elon paused, thought this one over, and he did say that Beijing has made it clear that its disapproval of the recent rollout of Starlink in Ukraine to help the military circumvent Russia's cut-off internet has been, frowned upon or questioned, And he says that Beijing has sought assurances that he would not sell Starlink in China, kind of following, that action. So Elon's long pause here. We've seen him pause and consider these comments before. It's obviously something that Elon feels is something that needs to be handled delicately. Not that necessarily means there's any tension, but it does sound like, maybe there's hints of that here with some of SpaceX's actions. So I don't know, maybe that contributed a little bit to the stock price that we saw, the stock price movement that we saw today, but definitely wanted to make sure to pass that along. Elon also had some comments about Taiwan, which, don't really want to get into that whole political situation. I think we've had plenty of that with Elon so far this week. So I wanted to pass those along from that interview. And then the last couple of things here, Elon did note that there's an even better build coming next week for FSD Beta. As I mentioned, we're on 10.69.2.3. I don't know if Elon here is talking about 10.69.3, which he had previously said would be a pretty big step up. So we'll have to see, but hopefully we'll find that out next week. And then Pepsi here confirming Tesla's tweet that they are expecting their Tesla Semi deliveries on December 1st. So that's exciting. And they do say that they're looking forward to this next step in their journey and will provide more details once they have taken delivery. So hopefully, I talked a little bit about this yesterday where since this wouldn't be going to a consumer, we might not get a ton of detail initially, but hopefully looks like Pepsi is planning on sharing some things. I would think that maybe this ends up being a, Uber or Hertz type of situation where we have had comments from CEOs of those companies about how Tesla has fit into their business model, and that has helped us kind of understand where those partnerships or, customer relationships may go in the future. I'm hoping that we'll see a similar outcome and sort of similar comments and updates from Pepsi here, and that's kind of what it sounds like they intend to do. And then last thing, kind of save this for last just to firmly put it into the rumor mill category, but CleanerWatt has posted a video today and said that they have been told that initial production for 4680 cells have begun in Giga Shanghai. I haven't heard anything like that yet. Doesn't mean it's not accurate. Definitely could be, but would definitely take it with a grain of salt for now. I'll try to see if I can learn anything more about that. But if that is the case, obviously that would be an exciting step forward for Giga Shanghai. We really haven't heard too much about Tesla's plans there for whatever reason on 4680s. All right, so I think that is it for today. Enjoy the weekend. Again, long week this week, so look forward to the weekend. And again, we'll have a busy one next week with, I'm sure, even more Twitter drama. If you didn't catch yesterday's episode, go back and watch the first minute or so. I did have a little bit of an announcement on that. If you didn't fill out that form yet, that'll be in the description today as well. So as always, thank you for listening. Make sure you are subscribed and signed up for notifications. You can also find me on Twitter at Tesla Podcast. And we'll see you next week for the Monday, October 10th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.